Hello everyone and welcome to the Tulare Public Library for another virtual edition of our adult craft. This month for February, we are going to be making a button heart craft that helps us commemorate Random Acts of Kindness Day, which is commemorated on February 17th. So I think this is a lovely holiday to think about, who in your life may need a little bit of extra love and kindness during this month. Perhaps you can give the craft that we make to them as a card. You can keep it for yourself as a magnet. There are a lot of customization options here, but we'll go over the basics and then I hope you're able to do with it what you want. So please keep in mind that if you picked up an adult craft supply bag here at the library, you will have all of these materials. If you didn't get a chance to grab a bag with us, hopefully they're easy enough to find around the house. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so first let's review the supplies that we will need today. So if you picked up a craft supply bag with us, you will find these same exact items. I've got a decorative piece of scrapbooking paper here. I chose one with kind of yellows and oranges because the heart we'll be making is red today, so I thought that would play off of those colors nicely. This is about 6 inches by 6 inches. If you didn't pick up a bag, you can use any type of paper or cardstock, any backing that you prefer. Next, I have my assortment of buttons. So I have an assortment of red and dark red. If you didn't pick up our craft supply bags, you can go through your own button supply. I know most of us have those extra buttons hanging around, maybe in a sewing kit or just put aside for a rainy day. Feel free to use those. And you'll notice, I have just about a handful, 20 or so of different sizes. If you picked up a craft supply bag, you have a simple heart. This is just for us to trace around to create our heart shape on our paper to be able to lay down our buttons. We've got a pencil, a popsicle stick for spreading glue, a pair of scissors. We have a small container of glue. I'm using Mod Podge, but any glue should work. And lastly, if you got a craft supply bag with us, you'll get this little square of paper, and what this contains is a magnet that we are going to glue to the back. So if you choose to turn your button heart into a magnet for your fridge or a gift for a friend, then you can use this as well. I have covered them in paper. Be mindful that the ones that we've provided in the craft bags can get your fingers a little bit dirty, so just pay close attention to that if you're using it and touching it. Make sure you're not touching anything white right after. Okay, so let me go ahead and clear my supplies out of the way. I am going to keep simply my craft paper, my scrapbook paper, my heart outline, and my pencil for now. Let me move everything else aside and we'll go ahead and get started. So what I'm going to do first is decide how I want my paper to sit. For me, I think this is a nice direction, and I'm going to put my paper heart right in the middle here. Actually up a little, because then to me it seems like a nice spacing. Now what I'm going to do with my pencil is hold down my paper heart onto my craft paper background, and I'm simply going to lightly trace around this heart. I want it to be light, light, light because I'm just going to be using it as a guide, but I don't want it to really show through on my craft paper. So let me lift and show you what I mean. You'll notice that mine is very, very light. I don't even know if you can see the outline there, but this is just gonna help me create a guideline. You can see it right there for my buttons. All right, so I'm gonna move that stencil aside. Next, I'm going to take my buttons as well as my glue. I'm gonna pour my buttons out here. You'll notice I have some big, some small. Now, what I'm going to do is roughly lay out my buttons inside this heart shape. In my practice round, I figured out that it's better to kind of lay them out first rather than starting to glue and getting stuck with big old gaps. So I'm just gonna kind of throw everything in here. As you do, you notice that there are some strategies that work a little bit better than others, but just to get started, since I don't know what those are yet, I'm just gonna throw all my buttons in here and try to form them in kind of the most condensed shape without going outside the lines. So for those of you doing this at home that haven't picked up the craft supply bags, it is really nice to have these small buttons as well as the large, because these small buttons end up being the filler and really allow you to create that shape without having too many empty gaps here. So I think this is probably just gonna work out, this sizing here. And I hope yours does at home as well. And I'm gonna use a slightly smaller one for my heart point here, because if I use that big one, I notice I don't get as sharp of a point there. Okay, so I have filled in all of the buttons that I have available, and I'm thinking that looks pretty good. Generally, you can tell it's a heart shape. Let me actually go ahead and see. This is great to be able to lay out, because as I notice, you know, either at the top or the bottom, if things aren't creating a point or aren't fitting into that shape quite right, then I can go ahead and adjust as needed. Okay, so I think this is a good general heart shape. You can tell that it has the two arcs at the top and the point at the bottom. So now I am going to start gluing these on. Now, two quick things to keep in mind about gluing. So if, like me, you're using our craft supply bag materials, keep in mind that you want to use very little glue. This glue can get gloopy really quickly. So for each of my buttons, I'm just going to put a little bit on the back here on the flattest surface. Now, if the buttons have little holes, you know, the 4 or the 2 in front that you use to sew, then please keep in mind some of this glue might kind of squish through, but it should dry clear. So if you give it enough time when you're letting it dry, then it shouldn't be an issue. All right, so I'm just going to do this entire process. I am going to speed it up, because once you know how to pick up and glue one, you know how to pick up and glue the rest. You might notice that once I glue down my outside buttons, some of the little inside ones are harder to get to. So maybe I will continue by gluing the ones in the middle and then spreading out. So again, I'm gonna speed this up. I'm not gonna talk here, just so you're not having to sit through the boring parts. And I'll let you do yours as well. All right, here we go. I will quickly say that every now and again I am using a paper towel to blot some of the excess glue that comes through. I find that with some of these buttons it's just hard to get around that. So having one handy is a great thing to do. It'll also be a great way to put some finishing touches or kind of finish up by dabbing away any of the excess. All right, so let's go ahead and finish up. All right, everyone, so now I have all of my red buttons fixed to my backing, to my paper scrapbooking backing. Now, the really important thing is I'm not going to touch this until it dries. So with the Mod Podge glue that we're using from the craft supply bags, just to be sure, I would say give it, an hour or so just to make sure everything is totally fixed. So definitely a great thing to walk away from, come back at a later time. But I am going to show you how to do the magnet on the back. So essentially we can leave this as is. We can write a beautiful message on the back. We can turn it into a card, either the front or the back. The other thing that we can do is turn it into a magnet if you decide that that's something you want to display on your fridge or somewhere magnetic. So if that is what we decide to do, what you can do is just put some glue on the back of our magnet. And again, I'm just going to show you, but not fully demonstrate, because I do want my button heart to completely dry before I flip my paper over. Don't want any of those buttons falling off unintentionally. But once that is done and those are dry, I'm just going to put glue on the back, light layer. I'm going to flip my card over and I'm going to put this magnet right on the back there, so that again, once that dries, I could display my beautiful heart as a magnet on the fridge. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that craft and that you're able to use it as a reminder to spread a little extra love and kindness during the month of February. For all future upcoming adult and youth programs, please stay tuned to our website at tullarepubliclibrary.org. You can check our website calendar for all upcoming virtual and in-person events. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at Tulare Library to get a sense of what's going on around the library, including programs. Thank you all so much again. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time. Bye.